we will then travel to, I guess I got started a little early, it's just almost 2 o'clock. The hope is that we will travel to Iceland in May/June of 2021 and spend about 10 days in Iceland. If you send me an email, I can send you the itinerary and the likely syllabus for the class for Iceland. We will be teaching the class this coming spring, no matter what, regardless of whether we travel or not. So Dr. Kelly LeBlanc, who is in environmental science, and I will be teaching the course. It will be Wednesday mornings from 8 to 10, I believe is when they scheduled us. And so it will be, again, focused on the major topics of climate change and response to climate change and Iceland. Trying to learn as much as we can about Iceland and what makes Iceland a bit unique in terms of climate change and in terms of its response to climate change. And so a worthy place to go study. And then the hope is, so that will be during the spring semester, and then the hope is that course concludes with 10, 11 days worth of travel around and in Iceland, walking glaciers, visiting volcanoes, going out to volcanic islands, touring geothermal plants, going to swim in geothermal pools, just doing some amazing things that really highlight Iceland and the sort of things that Iceland can and has done. So, I mean, I could say that same thing to 18 different groups, but on the other hand, what do you got? I mean, you got some questions? You got some comments about this CCE, other ones that you've talked about, things you want to know about travel, or about CCEs in general, or about this one in particular? What do you got? I know Amber. Amber asks good questions. So give me a good question, Amber.
Okay. I think you mentioned to me previously that we would be interacting with locals.
Yeah.
I guess my question is that going to be like a constant thing on the trip, or are we just going to go to like one little village and be like, what do you think about climate change?
No, it'll be at different levels every day. So we will be with multiple tour leaders who are all local Icelandics. And so we will have 8 to 10 hours a day opportunity to talk to them on the days that we're traveling. We will always, I mean, we don't just, this is not sort of like, let's drive the family out west and spend 18 hours in a car every day and then crash at night. I mean, these are we will be driving around, but stopping many times at sites. We will be talking to people at every one of those. Some of them are, places like a sustainable farming community. We'll be going into a sustainable farming community and just wandering and get opportunities to talk to all sorts of different people of different age groups. We'll also have very, very focused times. We're going to be spending either a morning or an afternoon and a meal, I'm not sure morning or afternoon, with undergraduate students at probably the University of Iceland, although it could be Reykjavik University. So we'll be meeting with students of your age group, and you'll have then a chance to talk to, okay, and these may be Icelandic people, they may be people from Europe. There's many, Iceland is part of the EU, and so there's lots of students from Europe that study there. We'll also be going to the US Embassy, so not talking to locals so much as talking to Americans, but Americans who have lived in Iceland for a long time and can have a really interesting perspective on Iceland. And the other thing we'll be doing is at least one, and probably just one full day on a service project. I don't know, I can't tell you anything about it yet, except that it will be in Reykjavik, the major capital, and it will be doing some sort of service project. I'm not sure what organization we're going to end up going through yet, and depending on the organization that we go through will dictate the sort of project that we're involved in. But it will be something working towards, obviously, improvement of something. I mean, I got a lot of hopes. I found a lot of possibilities, and so we'll see which one of them turns out to be the best in terms of what we need. So yes, you'll get opportunities. In fact, one of the key pieces to a CCE and the key piece to getting a CCE approved and continue to run is the opportunity for you guys to spend time one-on-one or small group talking to people from that country, trying to understand the country, not from my perspective, but from their perspective, from the actual perspective of people who live there.
Do you think there will be like any language barrier between us and them?
Icelandic is the national language. Okay. However, the vast majority, if you've been to Europe, you've traveled in France, most people speak French on the streets, and but you can always find somebody who speaks English. This is even a little more so. I mean, my understanding is that yes, Icelandic is the national language, but for example, both of the major universities do all instruction in English, and so the vast majority of people there will know English and you'll be able to communicate with just fine. Kelly LeBlanc actually at least understands. I mean, if you get a chance, go to some Icelandic website and look at the words. I mean, they're just beautiful. They're huge and long and crazy spellings. And so learning the language between now and then is going to be a little problematic. But yes, it won't be nearly as big of an issue as it would be in, if we went to, I traveled to Kenya, East Africa, where a small fraction of the people know English, and we still got around fine, and we traveled fine, and the students still were able to interact with people on meaningful levels. So I don't think that's going to be a problem for us. I don't think so.
And then I joined late. I'm Taylor from the CCE office, so I can answer any general CCE questions. But Professor Schuder, you have a question in the chat asking if you can repeat when the class and travel are.
Good. So yes, I'm sorry. The class is scheduled to meet from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock on Wednesdays. So a couple hours a week during the academic term. The actual travel, I'm not sure. My guess is that we will be leaving about a week after commencement. I don't have the definite dates yet because we don't have definite dates yet. But usually we would plan to leave within, let's say, within a week after commencement. So somewhere on the order of May 10th. Travel for 10 days, so we're back here by about the 20th. Okay. So that still allows anyone who wants to participate in not summer term 1, but certainly summer term 2 and 3, and importantly, get back in time to get a job and be working over the summer. So we try to get it done fairly early. It is a northern climate, so the longer we wait, the longer the days get. They are very close to the Arctic Circle, and so it'll be a little cool when we're there, but pleasantly cool, sort of like cool weather now in the middle of their, at that time of year for them. Thanks, David. If you get any others, just give a yell. What other questions we got or things you want to hear about?
Another one just came in through the chat that says, since the class goes until 10, is it not possible to do this class and a required course Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9:20?
So could we do it from 8 until 9:20? Yeah, I mean, I think that I have to think about how this is going to work. But I mean, I'm not sure how fixed in stone those are. Probably not totally. We could schedule it from like a Monday, Wednesday, 8 to 9 or something. That would allow us to only run through one time block, which probably is a lot better for people. So let me push and see if I can't change that. So it would just be during that 8 to 9, or I guess 8 to 9:20 time slot. It wouldn't run into a second one. That's a really good idea. And I think that would work well for Kelly as well. So I've got to check with her, but I think wouldn't be a problem for Kelly.
Yeah, and feel free to just email me, Professor Schuder, if you are looking at possibly changing it. Samantha, what I would do is if you are interested, since the class time hasn't changed obviously yet, but pending change, is still apply for the course because you wouldn't have to worry about paying any money or committing or anything until you were accepted. And acceptances are September 28th. So if you hadn't heard anything at that time, you could either check back in with Professor Schuder, or we will have let the people who've applied know about the course change at that time. But I would still apply if you're interested for now, because there's really no commitment when you're just like applying to things at this time.
That's a great idea in general. I mean, apply to more than one. Look at, visit a bunch of them, find the ones that are interesting to you. And nowadays, you got to be, it's got to be not only interesting as in a place to go see and visit and learn about, but also the course itself has to be, because there's a possibility that these things are going to be without travel. And so take one that's got a course content and topic that's of interest to you as well, because that may be the major part of the CCE, whereas in the past, the major part has always been the travel. The travel is always the best, number one. But, if we can't travel, we can't travel. So we do the best we can. Other details that people may be interested in. Cost, remember, I had it, and I even pulled it up, and then I closed the file that reminded me what the cost was. The cost of the course itself, of course, is free, because that's what all Carroll courses are. It's included in your tuition. The cost of travel is based on it's not based on paying me money. It's based on what the actual costs are for each student in terms of air flights, which are not terrible. It's actually a very nice air flight from either Milwaukee or Chicago up to Reykjavik. About 5 hours, I think, something like that. So much better than the last few I've done to Australia and New Zealand, which are many, many, many hours. Okay, here we go. Iceland expenses 2021. So the cost for 10 days, including, so the costing, it's about $4,000 with the 10% college bump on it. So the college puts in a 10%, they call it a cushion, just in case money. I've always been able to bring trips in on cost, so you will likely get that money back. So 10% of it back in. But it covers all the air flights, so they're back. It covers all in-country travel. So all of the traveling it will do. It covers all lodging for all nights that we're there. It covers all activities that I plan. So anything that's part of the experience, all of those activities are covered. And it covers about 20%, 25% of the meals. Okay, maybe more like 30% of the meals. So I think it covers all breakfasts, and then about half lunches and a couple dinners. Iceland is a reasonable place to find meals, and we'll often go together and eat and keep costs down. We'll also be staying at some places that we could cook our own food if we chose to do so. So there are ways to keep that cost down. That's the cost of the experience. I'm excited about the course. I don't know if you know Kelly LeBlanc. She's been at Carroll for a while. She teaches environmental science. She's actually done research in Iceland as part of her PhD. She went and studied glaciers in Iceland and has been to Iceland a couple times. So she's got more Iceland knowledge than I do, which is wonderful. So she'll be traveling with us to Iceland, and she'll be participating in the course as a co-teacher of that course. Yeah.
I just included the link in the chat if you guys are interested in applying, if you haven't already. There's a little apply now button on the right-hand side. I guess the other thing students sometimes ask about, Professor Schuder, is food. I don't know if you know like common foods or what kinds of things you guys would be eating.
Oddly enough, the #1 food of Iceland, hot dogs. I don't know why. They love their hot dogs. I guess gourmet and various types and flavors and wonderful sort of varieties. The food is, I mean, Iceland is in the EU. It is very international. So there are French restaurants, Spanish restaurants, German restaurants. So there's a good variety of food in their palate. There's also I would say a lot of it. I mean, the main meat sources are lamb and a little bit beef and a whole lot of fish. So if you love fish, Iceland is the place to be. The number one industry of Iceland is fishing. So there's a wonderful variety of fish, fresh fish that are available around the country. I mean, Iceland itself is about a third, well, it's a little more than a third the size of Wisconsin. So it's quite small. Everybody knows about it. I mean, everybody's heard of Iceland. I mean, far and fewer of the world's population have heard of Wisconsin. And yet it's fairly small. And that's because it's really quite cool. I mean, it is the smallest island state of EU. Greenland is also in the EU. It's also the newest, it's the youngest sort of European country. It's only been a formal independent country for 150 years or so. So it's a cool place. It's a pretty cool place. We will be doing some walking. We'll be doing a fair amount of hiking every day. Nothing, I mean, we're not climbing mountains, but maybe climbing volcanoes, but on trails. Good amount of walking, but not strenuous, crazy, hikes, but worthwhile hikes. We'll be doing some time in the water, so there are some islands off of Iceland that we'll be going to visit, so some ferry time, but probably only a day or two. And then spending about 2.5 days. The last almost full day you will get free in Reykjavik. Reykjavik is the capital. It's only a little bigger than Waukesha, and it represents about 80% of the Iceland population lives in Reykjavik. It's a beautiful city. If you ever get a chance, go online and just look at some pictures of Reykjavik. I mean, wonderfully painted. I mean, very bright and vibrant city. And it doesn't feel like Milwaukee City. It feels much more sort of coastal, and it's really a very neat city. So we'll spend a bunch of time, at least a good amount of time in Reykjavik as well. Any other questions out there, folks that are there? Shoot it out. Anything is fun to talk about.
Yeah. Feel free to unmute yourself or ask your question in the chat. Oh, we just got a question. Do we stay in hotels or houses?
Good. No, neither. Probably neither. When we're in, the tour company that we're traveling with has, I guess they call them lodges, but I guess they're hotels. But they are facilities only for people that are traveling with their group. So there will be opportunities at those places because most of the people that they deal with are university students. So there will be opportunities to meet university students from other places in the US, but more importantly, other places in the world at these sites, at dinners and sitting around fireplaces and so on. And the beauty of them is that they are out in the middle of nowhere for the most part. I mean, they are out near, right beside volcanoes and glaciers and places that are of interest and are easy to access for them. So when we're out and about, we'll be in their lodging facilities most of the time. When we're in Reykjavik, we'll be staying in hostels. Again, if you've never stayed in a hostel, they are a wonderful way to travel. They are, again, amazingly great opportunities to meet people from around the world because university students who travel stay in hostels. And so it's a reasonably cheap, but really quite nice and very safe way to house. And they're generally located right in the interesting parts of cities. So it's easy to get around, easy to see things when you're there. Unfortunately, setting up homestays, at least for our first time that we go there, is going to be not going to happen. In the future, it would be great. I mean, part of what I wanted to do in May when I go was to actually travel into the country and see some cities and small villages and so on, and potentially set those things up. unfortunately, that wasn't possible. Other things that people are interested in will require a passport, obviously. In theory, I believe that the last email that I saw said that we're going to know by mid-December whether or not spring CCEs are happening. Is that true, Taylor?
Yep, that is correct. So at this time, the senior leadership hasn't made a decision just because don't want to make it too early, but at the same time want to make sure that you guys have enough time to plan on what you're going to do.
So if we hear by mid-December, you'll have plenty of time to get a passport if you don't already have one. So that won't be a problem. I mean, you could go ahead and get one if you're planning to travel anyway, someplace else. It's just that, of course, they have a time block and they only last so many years. So it's worth getting one when you know you're going to need it, and not necessarily one before that. But that's cool. It will be. I don't know. I think there's a good solid chance that we are able to travel, but we obviously won't know until we find out what science does. It's all on science now. What's the process of vaccination being developed? And what was I hearing yesterday? Someone was saying there's at least a 50% chance by the end of October we'll have something. I would say less than 50, but we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully by early spring. As long as we get something by early spring, we're all in good shape. And the spring semester will be much better too. We hope to meet in person, obviously, if we can in the spring, because it's a whole lot better. But if we can't, we can teach the course in small groups, as we need as well. Yeah, there are lots of opportunities. There's so many wonderful CCEs out there. So check them all out. I'm reasonably confident that we will get enough people for Iceland to make it happen. And so it turns out I've never run a CCE that hasn't made. So I don't want to break the record now. So hopefully we'll find plenty of students. We really only need 10 for sure to make this thing happen, and I'm pretty sure we'll find 10 students, and probably not more than 20, given it's the first time we're taking students.
And we don't have to stay on until exactly 2:30. I can wait a few minutes and see if anybody else has any questions, or Professor Schuder, if there's any other last things you want to talk about. Otherwise, I don't have to keep you.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you guys.
I do have a question. Oops,
Yep.
Sorry, Dr. Schuder.
Go ahead.
To apply, I'm in the pre-decision page, and I see a column that says signature documents and application questionnaires. Is that all that's required to apply? Is filling out those documents?
I haven't looked at the applications.
They're just some preliminary things to like read and sign off on. It's nothing super intense when you're initially applying. Obviously, there would be more required if you were accepted and you guys were traveling, but nothing crazy right now. Just kind of reading through and signing electronically that you've read it.
Okay, so that'll put me in the pool of applicants once I complete that?
Yep, there's no submit button. So actually immediately when you hit apply now and you selected spring 2021, you already would have appeared on our side. We just need you to finish the documents because that's something that's required, but you're through as long as you're seeing the application in front of you.
Awesome, thank you.
And then there are some questions about, are we only allowed to apply for 2? Yes, you're only allowed to apply for 2 per term. So you can apply to 2 for spring 2021. This is just in terms of acceptances. It would get way too out of hand if you could apply to more than 2. If you apply to 2 and then think, oh, I really am not interested in this one, while applications are open, you can withdraw one of them and apply to something different. And then there's a question about when will you be notified if you're accepted. So courses close, or applications close September 25th at midnight. So that's a Friday. And so application or acceptances won't begin until that Monday. So you should be checking your email Monday, September 28th.
Acceptance is still done by seniority. I mean, seniors.
Yes.
Onward.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's by class standing first, and then by the date and time of when you started the application.
Good. Okay. So start it now.
Yes.
Catch up on the other ones. Yeah. The beauty is it's always Iceland is brand new. Nobody has done Iceland before. There was one other CCE that went 1 year to Iceland, focusing on cinematography. It didn't go back again after the first year. So that means that it's probably a little less likely to be overwhelmed with applicants. Some of the well-established ones are more likely to get more, but we'll see. But I would encourage you, if you're interested, apply. It would be great to have a good class. Even if we don't travel, it'd be great to have a fun class in the spring and talk about some of these things.
Great. If there's no other questions, I can end the recording and let you guys go. If you do realize that you have a question, I'm sure if you email Professor Schuder, he would be more than happy to answer your Iceland questions. And then if you have general CCE questions, you can email us at cce@carolu.edu.
Yes, that sounds great, Taylor. Thank you very much.
Thanks everybody for coming.
All right, have a good weekend, guys.